Yeah, so shall we start? Ayush, am I audible?
Yes, ma'am. Am I audible?
Yeah, so shall we start? I think we should
Yes, ma'am.
start.
We can start. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, okay. So, hi, good evening, everyone. Hope everyone is safe and doing well at home. And this is Tanvi Rathi, DSC lead Acropolis, Institute of Technology and Research, Indore. So, I'm glad to have you all with us to a session on basics of data structures that is collaborated by 8 DSCs from across India, which are as follows: DSC AITR Indore, DSC AISSMS Pune, DSC Banasthili Vidyapeeth Jaipur, DSC MR IIRS Faridabad, DSC SVC Indore, DSC UCEK Thiruvananthapuram, DSC Hindustan Institute of Technology Chennai, and last but not the least, DSC MKSSS Pune. Entering into this world of data structures and knowing the basics of it is of utmost importance for we guys from CS and IT backgrounds. Now, what is something that makes it that important for us to study? DBMS, data structures, computer networking, and architecture. So these subjects are like far more important when we talk about interviews and from placement point of views as well. So, like if I talk about interviews, I am currently in my final year. So I have had interviews like with MNCs including Tata Consulting Services, that is TCS, Capgemini, Decode, and Enoi Technologies. So what I found with these interviews is that there is one topic that basically remains evergreen, and that is data structures. So there is no single interview that I gave जहाँ पे data structures नहीं थे. So, like in some, either there were questions on arrays, on stacks, on linked list, on the applications of these data structures. So, and when we talk about our backgrounds, that is computer science and information technology, data structures basically form the basics of our domain. So, knowing about them and exploring them is of much importance. So here we are, and I would like to call Tanvi Sutar from DSC AI SSMS Pune to carry on with the session. Tanvi, over to you.
Thank you, Tanvi. Everyone. I hope that I'm clearly audible. If there's any distortion in my voice, please just let me know in the chat box. So, as Tanvi said, today's session on basics of data structure and algorithm is being conducted through a collaboration of 8 DSCs across the nation. Data structures and algorithms, as it is popularly called, has been underestimated by college for so long. It isn't until that you hit your head over a problem statement in an interview that you realize how important it is. Thus, today, we bring to you this session to spread awareness about the eminence of DSA and bust some of the myths associated with it. Myself, Tanvi, from DSC-AISSMS-COE, and I'll be taking you through a part of the session. Moving on to the next slide, we have contents. Content to be delivered today is divided into three sections. Importance of DSA. Here we'll elaborate the significance of DSA in our career and we'll also take some sneak peek into some interview experiences. Next comes the introduction. Here we'll explain the actual meaning of data structures and algorithms and how it is further classified. In the third and the last section, we'll dive deep and have a detailed discussion on some of the very basic yet important DSA concepts and the real life use cases. Moving on to the next slide. Well, according to Linus Torvald, the very famous creator of Linux kernel and version control system, bad programmer worry about the code and good programmer worry about the data structures and the relationship. Very true. One cannot ace the world of programming unless they have the weapon of DSA in their arsenal. Moving towards the importance. Being in the field of computing, all of us have dreamed of getting hired by a product based company. The environment these organizations provide is conducive for our progress, let alone the high pay and the perks they provide. According to a survey, whatever position you're applying to, DSA skills are very core to the profile and mandatory as well. But I think that I'm not exactly the right person to speak about this since I haven't been interviewed by a product based company yet. So let's hear it from those who have been interviewed and aced it as well. Okay, so these are the snippets from the interview experiences of tech giants by people who have cracked it. Links to these articles are provided in the chat box. If not, then they'll be provided shortly. As you can see, every interview, every company has at least 2 to 3 rounds which are DSA intensive. Be it internship, SD roles, system engineer, DSA is a prerequisite. It gives an insight into your problem solving skill. So, regardless of what profile you're applying to, DSA skills are a must. So, I hope that you're pretty convinced now. Moving towards the next slide, now we come to the actual reasons and the importance of DSA. Using DSA, we can simulate real life problems. For example, say the friends network on Facebook. It is preserved using a data structure called graph. Secondly, it also improves the speed of the engagement. That is, for example, how quickly your messages will be delivered or how speedily your stories on Instagram will be posted. So that basically means performance. Then it also provides ease for scaling. If your users if the users of your application increase, then you can easily expand the resources and handle the load. And lastly, as we all know, the memory, that is the RAM, is comparatively very smaller than the disk. So it becomes very important for us to efficiently use this space. This is why DSA is so important. Then moving on to the next slide, we have well, most of the times people misunderstand that data structure and algorithm is a single topic. Rather, there are two different concepts in this topic. That is data structures and algorithms. Like they are different. They are different from each other. They are learned together because they are very closely associated. They are associated with each other to such an extent that to a particular point they depend on each other. So let us know how they are different from each other. So moving on to the next slide, the data structure. So what are data structures? Data structures are a way or say technique or format of storing data. It allows us to organize the data in such a way that the operations we perform, operations like adding data or deleting the data or searching through the data, sorting through the data, these operations can be performed with ease and they also consume less time. So let us understand this through real life scenarios. Um, Suppose that you want to store your family hierarchy information onto computer. So how would you store it? Well, the first thought that comes to our mind is the conventional method of using file systems. That is the files. I wouldn't say that we cannot do this. We sure can do this. But the amount of information we'll need to explain the relationship among members would be huge as well as confusing too. Using file storage medium, we cannot be sure whether the person who is reading the information has completely understood the idea that we are trying to convey to him. Like for example, consider this tree diagram or the diagram you're seeing right now in front of you on the screen. You can easily understand how relationships are distributed among these people. So this is what basically data structure does. It allows us to readily and easily understand the data and the relationship between the data, as well as it allows us to efficiently store the data. Another similar example would be the friends network on Facebook. How might how might Facebook be storing it on their databases? So they basically use a data structure called graph. On a similar note, we all have played those computerized chess games. So the moves that we are playing, that is the how we are playing this chess. and the move that we are playing are actually stored in a two-dimensional array. So thus we can conclude that data structures have a wide usage, be it app development, web development, game theory, etc. Moving on to the next slide, we have the types of data structures. Data structures are broadly classified into two categories, namely the linear and the non-linear data structure. Thus, most of the people might have this question, like, how will we identify which data structure to use? The type of data structure to use would completely depend upon the nature of the data and, of course, the operation that you want to perform on the data as well. And many a times, uh, the application, the usage of the data in your application is very crucial to the type of data structure you're using. So basically, we have two types of data structure, that is linear data structure and non-linear data structure. We'll look at the linear data structure first. The type of data structure in which the data is stored in a sequential manner is called linear data structure. For example, consider people standing in a queue. They're standing linearly, that is, a long line or say in a line. Every person knows who is standing behind them or ahead of them. So that is what real life use case of linear data structure. In such a data structure, we can traverse or say go through all of the elements in a single attempt because they are in line, right? It can be easily implemented in the computer system. We know that the memory, that is the RAM and the disk, are also the cells of the RAM and the disk are also aligned in a linear manner. That is why the data which has the linear nature can be easily stored onto the RAM or to the disk. So very common examples of linear data structures are array, linked list, queues, and stacks. Moving on to the non-linear data structure. Well, you can guess it from the name itself, that is linear and non-linear data structure have a quite opposite nature. If the data cannot be stored in a linear sequential manner, we say that the data is being stored in a non-linear data structure. As I said initially that the computer memory has a linear kind of a structure, this makes non-linear data structure very hard to fit in and very hard to represent or store in memory. So this is why it also makes them difficult to traverse, because since the nature of the memory and the nature of the data being stored is different or say opposite, that is why it also becomes difficult for the computer to handle such kind of data structures and data. Very common examples of these data structures are graphs and trees. Now coming to the algorithm part. An algorithm is a set of instructions or say rules that a computer needs to follow to perform a particular task. Well, we can visualize it as a mini instruction manual, similar to one which we receive when we purchase a new appliance. For example, consider that we purchased a new TV set. It will have a manual which gives steps to install a TV or connect your TV to your set-top box or to your dish. So that's what basically algorithm is. It is just a set of steps that we follow or the computer follows to perform a particular task. So we'll see the real life scenarios of an algorithm. The steps we follow to make a cup of tea is also an algorithm. So, well, in that sense, everybody of us in a certain point of our life have implemented an algorithm. Google Maps do employ algorithms to find the path to the destination. But the difference between these two algorithms you're seeing on the screen is the amount of complexity. The algorithm on the left side is way too easy, whereas the algorithm on the right side is way too complex. This is not exactly the algorithm that Google uses, but it is just a compact version of it so that we can understand it pretty more. So my point is that basically algorithms have a way of getting very complex. They can get very complex based upon the operations which are to be performed. That's why they say that DSA is pretty hard to ace. But I think with persistent practice, we can conquer DSA as well. Coming up next are the types of algorithms. My co-host Ayush will be taking you ahead from here.
Uh,
Over to you, Ayush.
okay. Hello. Am I audible to all? Hello.
Yes, Ayush,
Yes,
you're
sir.
audible.
Okay, so let's go a deep dive into the types of algorithms. As you might have guessed, DSA is not easy at all, and many of you guys must have tried to solve some problems on CodeChef or HackerRank, and you must have faced some issues in the medium level problems, right? Well, the basic problems can be solved with data structures, and we are learning them in the like second year. In the third sem, we have learned the basic stats queues. But to apply algorithms on their data structures, that is a little bit hard part that we have to master. So let's study what type of algorithms we need to use. We need to learn to ace in our career and get selected in the best companies. So the first one is recursive. The second is divide and conquer, which uses the concept of recursive, the base of recursive. The third one is dynamic programming, which is used vastly nowadays in AI and ML. And the fourth one is brute force. I guess anyone who's in cybersecurity or in networking may know brute force, like they have a base idea about it. So let's go into the recursion. Okay, so as you can see, it's written here that it's the most interesting algorithm, right? Now, why is it most interesting? Well, I will say because 50% of the algorithms that exist in the coding universe, they are based on recursion. And recursion is nothing but it's a function calling itself with different values till it gets an answer. A function that calls itself till it gets an answer, right? So as you can see, this is a basic function, very basic. This is a infinite recursion type of code. So as you can see, there is a function named recurse, which is calling itself, right? And in the main code, we call that. Now, it may be possible that you guys might not like might get confused in this code. Like, when will it end? So it doesn't end. It just goes like this. Like, this is exactly that code here. This is how recursion goes. It stops only when given a condition. Okay, so some of you guys might be confused that, okay, this sounds a lot like a concept we have learned in 12th, that is loops, right? Well, yeah, it is similar to loops, but it is much more efficient in time. The time complexity of recursion is much more less than loops. We will see in the upcoming divide and conquer algorithm. It uses recursion in a fun way. Okay, so let's move on to divide and conquer algorithm. Now, what divide and conquer means? As you can see by the name, divide means to divide the problems into smaller parts. And we are talking about very small parts, dividing a problem into 100 parts if the complexity is very large. Okay. And what conquer means solving each of those small problems simultaneously and then merging them or combining them together to get the final answer. And as you can hear by the description that to code this, it is hard. Like, just imagine the code in your brain of divide and conquer, a normal one. It will take at least 2 to 3 functions to complete this in a sequential way, I would say. As you can see by this image, that the problem is plus first splitted into two subproblems. Then those subproblems are splitted into another subproblems. It goes till it gets into the minimum amount of subproblems it can get. Like, there is an algorithm called merge sort, in which we sort using divide and conquer. So what we do is we divide the array into small parts till we have an array of only two elements. Uh, yeah, something like that. Yeah, two elements, and then we sort it and then combine it. And the complexity of that is n log n. I know most of you may not be aware with the term complexity n log n and on. Let's say n log n is like one of the best complexities, and it is very fast. Uh, this is a real life example, somewhat of a real life example of divide and conquer. Like, imagine if you have a very big pizza, let's say 20 inches big pizza, right? So you cannot alone finish it. Like, okay, it's tasty, it is intimidating, but you need friends to like finish it. You need someone to help you get through it, and you know that if you share it with friends, your friends will also enjoy it, right? And plus, the problem, that is the pizza, can be divided into bite-sized problem. That's how it goes with divide and conquer too. It's just like this problem, but in a more complex way, and you have to code a lot of lines. But yeah, this is like a basic example. The third and most important, that I would say 80% of the major companies, Google, Amazon, ask questions on this topic, that is dynamic programming. And they will not ask directly at all. They will just give you a problem, and you have to write the DP, the dynamic programming answer to it. Now, why is this so important, and what is it actually? So, programming is nothing, but what it does, it divides the problem into small pieces, solves them, and then stores the answer, or stores some important values that it can use in the next run, in the next compile time, to reduce the time. It does that till it reaches at one point that the time is reduced to the minimum. Let's say it is recursion, but with memory management. And as we have known that recursion is like the fastest way, right? Now combine that recursion with divide and conquer and use memory in it. Dynamic programming, a wonder. Okay, so as you can see, recursion is actually exponential. That means the level of have you guys seen Inception? I bet many of you have.
Yes.
Yes, right. And you have seen, you must have noticed that they go into different dreams, different level of dreams, and with each level of dream, the time span increases. 1 minute is equal to, I guess, 1 hour in the first dream, and then the second dream, the 1 minute is equal to the 8 hours. So it goes very exponentially, I would say. I would say Inception has took the concept of recursion too, but in a very different way. Okay, so it is exponential. So as you go deeper into recursion, it may take more space than time. Okay, and if we talk about dynamic programming, it is linear. It is not exponential. It increases by in sequence, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, something like that. But in recursion, it's exponential. So that's one major advantage of dynamic programming. Okay, this is also like a small diagram of what dynamic programming actually is in a nutshell. So what it is like overlapping subproblems and optimal substructure, that is again divided into subproblems and solving them. Plus there is the memorization, right? That is the memory management it uses. Now you must ask, how is it like used in ML and AI? If any one of you have worked with ML or AI, you know that we have to train the models and then test them. And we train them with some sample data. Well, that is what the algorithm that we are using, that is using dynamic programming, and it is using the test data, the trained data, to optimize our algorithm or optimize our model to predict the results. So if you take it in this way, dynamic programming is just recursion with cache. What is cache? Temporary memory. That's it. If you want to write DP in future, keep this in mind. And when you learn DP, it's although a lot more complex than it sounds, but maybe this thing will help. Like if you have to think, it is recursion with temporary memory. That's it. Okay. Moving to the last one, that is brute force. Okay, this is one of the simplest yet one of the most used algorithms in some parts of programming. Okay, so as you can see by the name only, brute force, using force to solve a problem. That means iterating over values to an algorithm till we find a solution. Like you just have to put values in it till you find the final answer. If you have tried the basic the highest number in the array, you must have did that. You must like the you compare the first element with all the others, then the second element with all the others, then the third. That is basically brute forcing. Like you're trying every possibility to see which possibility has the highest number, and then you decide it. That is actually brute force. Or many must have like here is a chart that you can see to understand what brute forcing is. This is like brute forcing or decrypting a password with the help of an algorithm. You can look at this and understand it yourself. You can take a screenshot of this, like if this might be useful to you. Okay, so the most common example of brute force is like you meet an old friend of school, like he's like, "Hey, dude, what's up?" And you're like, "Okay, I don't know his name. I have to pretend that I know." So you start asking me, like, "Are you Tim, Jack, Timothy, Pete, Harry?" And I bet, like, after 10 or 15 tries, you may find his name in that. Like, he will confirm, like, he will say from front, like, "No, my name is this," after being annoyed, of course. So, as you can see, these were the four types of algorithms that I used commonly in our daily life and the programming life. Like these four algorithms are the most crucial ones. There are others too. Okay, there are hundreds of algorithms, but if you put these four in mind, these four are like the base of almost all algorithms. After that, Shub will explain the application of DSA. Shub, would you take over?
Okay, okay. Am I audible? Hello? Hello?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, yes,
Now,
audible.
after having a discussion and knowing the basic knowledge of data structures and their algorithms, now let us discuss the applications of data structures and algorithms. First, we will discuss applications of data structures. First is leaderboard. How leaderboard works, as we have already seen leaderboard in many of the places, like in our games we usually play in the competitive, we used to say the leaderboard is running in the day-to-day life. How it is all? It is all using array. Second is image viewer. Image viewer is all, as image viewer we have to see the images in the lappy or in the desktop. We have to use image viewer. That how it works. It works using linked list. JVM, as many of us know how Java runs. Java runs on the Java virtual machine. It converts the bytecode. So how it works? It works on stack. Now fourth, job scheduling. Job scheduling works on queue. Hello. Please close your mic. Hello.
Others,
Others, can you please mute yourself? Now the
Tanvi,
fifth.
you can mute him.
yes, sir, okay.
Okay, the next we move on with the GPS navigation system. This works with the graph. Now the last on which the tree works is domain name system, in which the tree system works. Now next we will discuss on the applications of algorithms. As recursion we know it works infinitely till the condition is not satisfied. So in the file searching, we have to search a file, then we search in the search system. That means we have searched some condition. Till the file isn't found, it works on continuously. That's work through recursion. Divide and conqueror. In divide and conqueror, we basically divide into sub problems till then we doesn't get the answer. Like that works in the closest pair of points. Computer vision, which works on the dynamic programming. Cyber security. How cybersecurity works? It works on the algorithm brute forces. Now, after knowing this, we will know where we can perform or where we can learn. So, resources to learn data structures and algorithm. From we can learn from Udemy, Coursera, MIT lectures, EDX courses. Through this, we can learn the data structures and algorithm. But if you want to practice our data structures and algorithm questions, we can go on the competitive coding websites like Code Forces, Code Chef, HackerRank, Hacker, and many others. Now, over to Ankita.
Hello everyone, this is Ankita, lead at
Just a second,
DSC-AISSMS.
Ankita.
Yes.
Before that, can we have like questions or something? If you guys do you want to share something like कुछ लोगों ने प्रोग्रामिंग की होगी ट्राई किया होगा तो what issues do you guys face? I mean let's have a like interactive session sort of. मतलब डेटा स्ट्रक्चर्स में प्रॉब्लम आती है या फिर कोड बन जाता है सबसे कोड शेफ लीड कोड एंड ऑल ऑफ दोस प्लेटफॉर्म्स पे आई मीन समवन वुड लाइक टू से समथिंग डू यू गाइस कोड ऑन कोड शेफ लाइक
Yeah, I have not. Hello, this is Pratik. I am audible.
I mean no one is willing to answer so yeah okay Ankita you can continue.
Hello everyone, this is Ankita, lead at DSC-AISSMS-COE Pune, and I would like to conclude this session by thanking all of you. And I must say, you have been a great audience, and I hope you have had some great additions to your data structures knowledge. Thank you so much for joining us today. If you have any question, you can still ask in the chat box. We will try to answer them.
If you guys need any resources to DSA, we can also provide them. We will provide them in the at the end of the session. The links will be provided down.
Okay so like if there are no questions we can call up the session I guess. Yeah, so okay, thank you everyone. And if like you still have any doubts or you still want to know something like about placements or interviews, how do they go about, what sort of questions do the interviews ask और किन topics पे ज़्यादा focus होता है, तो you guys can connect through Instagram. Like we would be sharing the Instagram handles with you guys, so you can connect us. I guess there is something in the chat box. Like once we code we forget the logic after some time, after some days, how to deal with it. So Shri, I guess like if you make the logic by your own self, so we don't forget the logic, but anyways there are still new ways of trying a problem. मतलब एक problem का एक ही solution तो होता नहीं है, तो you can anyways तुम जब नहीं एक बार दूसरी बार उसको उसी question like factorial बनाने का सिर्फ एक ही logic नहीं होता है, तो इफ यू फॉरगेट द सिंपलेस्ट लॉजिक ऑफ फैक्टोरियल की फॉर लूप चलाना है 1 से लेके n तक और फैक्ट इक्वल्स टू फैक्ट इनटू i करना, अगर ये भूल भी जाते हो सो देयर आर मेनी अदर वेज दैट यू कैन ट्राई आउट दोस वेज आउट. एंड स्टिल इफ यू डोंट रिकॉल, या प्रैक्टिस इज अगेन एन इम्पॉर्टेंट फैक्टर. और स्टिल अगर रिकॉल नहीं होता है तो जो तुमने ओरिजिनली कोड किया था यू कैन गो बैक टू दैट कोड, सी हाउ डिड यू मेक दैट कोड. So, like, is there anyone who would like want to ask something on how which topics are important for interviews point of view, or when we talk about placements and stuff? I mean, I don't know which year students are there. I mean, there might be third year students also who might be taking up for the interviews next year.
Tanvi, there is a question in chat box.
Abhishek Bhavsar, mini roadmap for third year students. So, Abhishek, like, what is your plan? First of all, is it placements or is it higher studies or something? Because if you focus on placements, so being CSIT students, okay, placements. So, I think DBMS and data structures is something that you should focus on. And data structures में graphs and trees are not that मतलब DP इंटरव्यूज में इतना ज्यादा नहीं पूछते हैं बट जो बेसिक्स है मतलब एरे स्टैक लिंक लिस्ट लैंग्वेज okay just a second Abhishek I'll answer Abhishek's question so array के applications stack linked list के applications these all things are very important और they also focus on compiler things like variables के बीच का difference पूछ लेते हैं पॉइंटर्स ऑल्सो आर इम्पॉर्टेंट लाइक पॉइंटर्स ऐसा नहीं कि पॉइंटर्स को इम्प्लीमेंट कैसे करते हैं पॉइंटर्स के एप्लीकेशंस क्या है पॉइंटर्स के थ्रू लिंक लिस्ट कैसे बनाते हैं सो दे आस्क दीज सॉर्ट ऑफ क्वेश्चंस एंड like if I talk about my experience of interview with TCS तो वहाँ पे they asked us to write SQL queries DBMS भी पूछा था so SQL like joins are important when we talk about SQL क्योंकि वो बोलते हैं कि दो टेबल्स फ्री है अब दो टेबल्स में से मुझे डेटा एक्सट्रैक्ट करना है जॉइन के थ्रू तो वेयर क्लॉज वो सारे क्लॉजेस एग्रीगेट फंक्शंस all these are also important. I hope Abhishek I am like I have cleared your doubt. Okay, so language to start with data structure. For starting with data structures you can first of all go with C and if like C अगर बहुत अच्छे से आती है तो C++ because interviews में they don't ask that high level Python or something क्योंकि अगर तुम्हें C और C++ भी अच्छे से आती है so that is good enough to crack an interview बिकॉज वो लोग वहाँ पे बेसिक क्योंकि उनको जो काम करवाना होता है वो तो ऑब्वियसली सबको ट्रेनिंग मिलती ही है लाइक तुम लोग के अगर रिलेटिव्स होंगे तो जो स्टार्टिंग के 6 मंथ्स होते हैं दैट इज द ट्रेनिंग पीरियड तो वहाँ पे वो काम तो सिखाते ही हैं so when we talk about basics C and C++ is what you should focus on and baki we make projects we make minors and major projects so they talk about projects also they ask you about projects Nishant, I hope Pratik, I have cleared your doubt. Okay. Nishant Inamdar, can you brief about coding rounds? So yeah, like is by COVID, I don't know what is it was it COVID or something कि जो companies coding round नहीं भी लेती थी they also took our coding round like Persistent, Capgemini सारी companies इस बार coding round लिया था. So how it goes is कि तुम्हें एक प्लेटफॉर्म दिया जाता है इट कैन बी एमकेट प्लेटफॉर्म हैकर और हैकर रैंक जहाँ पे वो क्वेश्चंस को पुट अप करते हैं एंड इफ देयर इज 1 hour सो बेसिकली वो दो या तीन क्वेश्चंस होते हैं वहाँ पे यू नीड टू सॉल्व दोज एंड वो कम्प्लीटली डेटा स्ट्रक्चर्स पे ही होते हैं मोस्टली एरेज और स्ट्रिंग्स पे वो क्वेश्चन ज्यादा होते हैं मतलब इफ यू कैन गेट द लॉजिक ऑफ दोज क्वेश्चंस तो वो क्वेश्चन इजीली सॉल्व हो जाता है so if I talk about coding and if you like go for a package of like 4 to 5 or something so you should focus on dynamic programming also because आधे questions की जो solutions होते हैं वो DP से solve हो जाते हैं so Nishant I hope I have cleared what was your project and guide us how to make a significant project to impress the companies Tejas in which year are you Okay, second year. So, and what is your language like? तुम किसी language you have a command on Python or something? Yeah, you have just started with any language. I mean, Tejas, you can unmute yourself and speak if you want. Okay, C++ and Python. So first of all, Tejas, मतलब ऐसा कुछ नहीं कि companies को impress करना. It's not about impressing, but it's about being genuine because वहाँ पे तुम कितना भी अच्छा project बना के ले जाओ. सो वो अगर कुछ पूछ लेंगे इवेंचुअली अगर तुम्हें कुछ नहीं आता उस प्रोजेक्ट में से यू विल बी आउट क्योंकि उन्हें पता चल जाएगा कि लाइक तुमने उनको इम्प्रेस करने के लिए, या फिर किसी लाइक गिटहब पे आजकल एवरी प्रोजेक्ट इज अवेलेबल. तो इफ यू गो विद दैट मेथड दे विल डेफिनेटली नो. And Mera project was based on machine learning and one was based on IoT. So the machine learning project was a basically crop disease detection project, and IoT project was smart street light system using IoT. So I would suggest that like सिर्फ front end या back end language से तो एक project नहीं बनता है. तो if you want to make a good project, you can prefer Python. मतलब अगर तुम सीख सकते हो, अगर तुम पढ़ सकते हो, go for a project in Python. Because Python is a language that is increase, like it is on boom nowadays. We all know that machine learning, AI, ML, RPA, you can also take something on automation. So if you want to, you can go ahead with that also. And yeah, so that was like about my project. मैंने मतलब मुझे machine learning में I was sort of interested into machine learning. तो आई थॉट कि थ्योरी तो थोड़ी पढ़ी ली है, लेट्स गो इनटू इम्प्लीमेंटिंग कि मशीन लर्निंग कैसे, मतलब हाउ इज अ मॉडल ट्रेन. लाइक जैसे आयुष ने बोला था कि हम डीपी एल्गोरिदम्स कहाँ यूज करते हैं इन मशीन लर्निंग एल्गोरिदम्स. तो आई सॉर्ट ऑफ थॉट कि एक बार थ्योरी को भी प्रैक्टिकल में चेंज करके देखना चाहिए. सो या आई मेड दैट प्रोजेक्ट ऑन एमएल. And anyways, if you still like Tejas, if you still want to know about some ideas, you can anyways contact me. Okay. So yeah, Tanvi is also like sharing some. Tanvi and Ankita have also shared some links in the chat box that can be like helpful to you guys. Okay, Shubham, can we go for new language or just command on one language? So Shubham, which is that one language you are into? C plus plus. ओके सो लाइक टू बी वेरी ऑनेस्ट, सी और सी प्लस प्लस तो ऐसा हो गया कि सबके रिज्यूमेज में लिखा ही होता है. मतलब इट्स सॉर्ट ऑफ कंपल्शन हो गया है कि अगर आईटीसीएस का स्टूडेंट है तो रिज्यूमे में सी या सी प्लस प्लस नहीं लिखा है तो बहुत एक्सेप्शन हो जाता है. सो अपार्ट फ्रॉम दैट शुभम, आई थिंक यू शुड गो अहेड विद वन मोर लैंग्वेज, बिकॉज सी और सी प्लस प्लस तो सबके पास होता है. लाइक व्हाट इज इट दैट मेक्स यू स्टैंड आउट? सो यू शुड हैव वन मोर लैंग्वेज. ऐसा नहीं है कि 10-12, but if you have sort of interest in front end or designing part, you can learn one language, HTML, CSS. अगर जैसे C++ तो coding के लिए हो गया. What about designing part? What about the front end part? तो हम एक language front end की सीख सकते हैं. And अगर back end में interest है तो Python is the most commonly used language. On Python is, अगर C++ बहुत अच्छे से आती है तो Python is like a cakewalk for you. Python तो बहुत आसानी से आई जाती है. So, Shubham, I hope like I have cleared your doubt. मतलब you should yeah, you should also एक language तो और होनी ही चाहिए in addition to C and C++. What all roles do freshers get after joining company? So there is a project developer, that there is software engineer, software developer, there is quality assurance tester. लाइक टेस्टर इज द वन की जिसने, जो डेवलपमेंट वाला इंसान है उसने कोड और प्रोजेक्ट बना दिया है. अब तुम्हें कस्टमर के हिसाब से, मतलब वो तुम्हें एक स्पेसिफिकेशन देते हैं कि हमारे प्रोडक्ट में ये होना चाहिए. सो टेस्टर इज समवन जो कस्टमर के यूज केसेस के अगेंस्ट उस कोड या उस प्रोडक्ट या उस सॉफ्टवेयर को टेस्ट करता है. तो अगर तुमको एरर डिटेक्शन बहुत अच्छे से आता है, इफ यू आर गुड इन एरर डिटेक्शन, इन डीबगिंग द कोड्स, so testing is one option. And there are also then that technology specific, just if I don't know if how many of you have heard of Salesforce. So Salesforce also has many roles as Salesforce administrator, Salesforce architect, Salesforce solution engineer. So these are technology specific roles जो अगर तुम किसी एक specific technology में जाते हो तो you would get. Then we have Java developer, we have Python developer. मतलब specifically बहुत ज़्यादा अगर बहुत extreme command है किसी language पे, so you get into that developer role. Web development or machine learning. And Abhishek, what are you trying to ask? Abhishek, if you want, you can unmute yourself and ask. Like, I'm not getting what are you trying to say.
Like, I mean, in future, like after 2 3 years,
Hmm.
or after that, what will be the companies more likely to hire? A student having knowledge of machine learning or a student good at web development?
See, like we all know कि automation is something uh, world is moving towards. So machine learning is a like machine learning ऐसा है कि वो कभी भी it would not be on the falling side. मतलब कुछ भी हो, like whether it is COVID, क्योंकि COVID में भी clouds and servers have not stopped. जो भी काम हो रहा है वो automation से हो रहा है, cloud servers पे हो रहा है. So ML तो ऐसी लैंग्वेज है, ML ऐसा डोमेन है जो कभी भी कोई भी सिचुएशन आ जाए कभी भी फॉल नहीं होगा. एंड व्हेन इट कम्स टू वेब डेवलपमेंट इज बेसिकली थोड़ा सा स्पेसिफिक होता है, क्योंकि लाइक एवरीवन इज नॉट वांटिंग टू गो कि अब वो कोई एप्लीकेशन या सॉफ्टवेयर बनाए, बिकॉज अब चीजें क्लाउड और सर्वर्स पे शिफ्ट हो रही है. सो मतलब मैं ये तो नहीं बोलूंगी कि वेब डेवलपमेंट इज समथिंग गुड और बैड, बट ML is something which has a future scope much beyond future scope, I would say. क्योंकि वो चीज ऐसी वो चीज कभी भी फॉल नहीं होगी. AI ML इज नेवर गोइंग टू स्टॉप, बिकॉज अब तो व्हीकल्स भी ऑटोमेटेड है. AI ML का यूज हो रहा है व्हीकल्स में. मैकेनिकल इंजीनियरिंग इज यूजिंग AI ML. What not is using AI ML. Okay, so yeah. And in any ways, like I would share my contact number with you. If you guys still have any questions, you can contact me. You can ping me. So yeah, I've pasted my number on in the chat box. You can contact me. And yeah, do we have any other questions? Yeah, so you can paste these links that Ankita and Ayush is also sharing some stuff, and Tanvi is also sharing some stuff. So you can copy these links in the notepad and you can go and check them out. So, do we have any other questions? And I just wanted to know that was this session helpful for you? I mean, I don't think I'm not saying all of you, but I hope it might have helped some people. Okay, so yeah, okay. So, any other questions do we have, or I still have pasted my contact number. If in case you still have any doubts, you can contact me. Okay, so yeah, thank you everyone, and thank you Ankita and your team as well. Thank you all the attendees who were a part of this session, and yeah, thanks to everyone who was into asking questions and exploring things. So yeah, let's call off the session, and yeah, let's talk. If in case you have doubts, feel free to contact me.